Hello and welcome back to Dataverse by Nino Paul. We are so glad to have you with us for episode number 16.
Good to be back.
Today we're diving into a topic that, I'll be honest, might sound a little dry on paper, but it's actually the difference between a company that scales and one that stalls.
Oh, it's deceptive, for sure. It sounds like paperwork, but it's really about survival.
We are talking about structured data management. And before you tune out, thinking this is just for the IT crowd, let me ask you this. Is your organization's data a strategic asset? I mean, a real gold mine.
Or is it a swamp?
Or is it a swamp? Exactly. We hear the buzzwords all the time, right?
Mhm.
Data is the lifeblood of the business. It powers BI dashboards. It feeds the AI models. But let's be real. If I walked into an average company today and asked to see the lineage of their main revenue number, what am I going to find?
Chaos. Absolute chaos. You'd find scattered spreadsheets, inconsistent naming, and documentation that probably hasn't been touched since 2019.
And that's not just messy.
No, it's a liability. You can't make decisions if you can't trust the numbers. And if you can't trace the data, you're exposed to huge risks.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We're looking at the Data Usage and Documentation Manual to figure out how to take that chaos, that swamp, and turn it into a system that humans and machines can actually use.
And use is the key word. Data that's locked away is just as useless as the swamp.
Okay, so let's start with a definition. When we say structured data, I think a lot of people just picture an Excel sheet, but the source material is way more rigorous.
It is. It's not just about rows and columns. It's about organizing information into a formatted repository, like a database, where fields are clearly defined. And this is the key part related to each other. It's about the relationships.
So the difference between, say, throwing all your receipts in a shoebox versus having a proper ledger where every single expense is categorized and dated.
That's a great analogy. You can't ask the shoebox, hey, how much did we spend on travel in Q3? But with structured data, you can. And more importantly, machines can. Automation is completely dependent on structure.
But the text really emphasizes this isn't just for the machines. It lists a pretty broad target audience.
It does, and this surprises people. It's not just data engineers. It's analysts, stewards, compliance teams, even end users like a department head. Your marketing VP is a consumer of this structure. If it's bad, their reports are bad.
It's a cross-functional problem.
Totally.
Okay, let's get into the how. The source outlines what it calls a robust data management framework. And the first pillar is something that sounds, well, incredible boring. Documenting the process.
Ah, yes. This is what I call the bus factor mitigation strategy.
The buzz fact.
Yeah. If your lead data engineer gets hit by a bus tomorrow or, wins the lottery and disappears, does your whole data pipeline just shut down?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, you have a process documentation problem.
So we're talking about SOPs,
Yeah.
standard operating procedures.
SOPs, workflow diagrams, regular audits. You need to write down how the data moves. The text gives a great example of a data collection process, mapping how data goes from a database, gets validated for quality, and then lands in a warehouse.
I like that example because it's not just move data from A to B.
Right.
It's move data, check if it's garbage, and then store it.
Precisely. And if you don't write that down, the next person might remove that validation step because they have no idea why it's there. Suddenly, bad data is flowing in, and nobody knows why the dashboard is broken.
Which brings us to technical writing. I have to play devil's advocate. Engineers hate writing documentation. It's the last thing on the list.
I know. But the source makes a great point about how to write it so it's useful. Use the active voice, break things into sections. It's just about clarity.
No academic papers?
None. The example they use is endpoint documentation for an API. You have to describe the parameters, give example requests, show what the response looks like. Otherwise, you've built a tool nobody can figure out how to use.
Okay, so we have the process. Now for the actual documents, the essential document library. There's a big list here, and I want to hit the big ones because they can feel like bureaucracy until you realize what happens if you don't have them.
Let's do it. Where do you want to start?
How about the business impact and integration document? To me, that sounds like something you write to make a project manager happy, and then you never look at it again. Convince me I'm wrong.
You're so wrong. This is the why are we even doing this document. It connects the tech project to actual business goals. Without it, you get what we call misaligned development priorities.
So engineers are off building things that...
So I bring in zero revenue.
Right.
Exactly. While the sales team is screaming for a feature that's being ignored, this document is the contract between business and tech. It forces everyone to agree on what value means.
Okay, fair enough. Next on the list, feature evolution and roadmap. That seems pretty straightforward.
It is, but it's really about expectation management. It's a timeline so stakeholders aren't surprised 6 months down the line.
Let's flip to the technical side. Functional validation document. This sounds like a report card.
It is, but it's a post-mortem report card. It's where you put your retrospective findings. Did the thing actually work after launch? If not, why? This is how you learn from mistakes instead of just repeating them.
And speaking of things going wrong, the Technical Maintenance and Infrastructure Guide.
The 3 a.m. document.
The 3 a.m. document.
Picture it. It's 3 a.m., the whole system has crashed, the CEO needs a report at 8, and the original architect is on vacation.
Oh, no.
You're the on-call engineer. Do you want to be guessing how the servers work? Or do you want a troubleshooting playbook that walks you through it?
I want the playbook. Definitely the playbook.
That's what this is. It's the document that saves your job when everything is on fire.
That makes it very real. Okay, 2 more heavy hitters here. The Data Governance and Compliance Manual and the Data Dictionary.
These are non-negotiable. The governance manual outlines who can access what. If you mess this up, you're not just having a bad day, you're facing lawsuits or failing an audit. It's serious stuff.
And the Data Dictionary. I feel like I've seen 100 of these that are just empty wiki pages.
And that's the tragedy. It should be the centralized place that defines what your data means. It's what prevents the classic war, where marketing says you have 10,000 leads and sales says you only have 500.
Because they define lead differently.
Exactly. One thinks it's an email address, the other thinks it's someone who booked a demo. The Data Dictionary forces you to write that down so everyone's speaking the same language.
It's the Rosetta Stone for the business.
It has to be. And you're right, they go stale. The modern approach, which the source gets into, is to automate as much of this as you can.
Let's pivot to that. Core element 3. Visuals and metadata. We're talking DFDs and ERDs.
Yeah, data flow diagrams and entity relationship diagrams. Visuals are powerful. If you draw out your data flow and it looks like a bowl of spaghetti, you immediately know your architecture has a problem. You can't see that in lines of code.
And then there's metadata, the data about the data. The source brings up the data catalog.
A data catalog is how you make your data discoverable. The source specifically mentions the AWS Glue data catalog as a good example.
So what does something like AWS Glue actually do here?
Well, it gives you a central place to store all that metadata. But the really cool part is the automatic schema discovery. It can crawl your data sources, your databases, your S3 buckets, and just figure out the structure for you. It builds the map.
That saves a ton of manual work.
A ton. And it helps you track lineage.
Which brings up upstream and downstream. Can we unpack that a bit?
We should. Upstream is the source of the data, your transaction systems, maybe an external API. Downstream is whoever consumes it, your data warehouse, your machine learning models. The danger is what's called schema drift. Let's say an upstream developer changes a column for order ID from a number to a string. Seems like a tiny change.
Yeah, sounds harmless.
Well, it can crash the entire downstream data warehouse because the warehouse was built to expect a number. If you don't have the dependency mapped out, that developer has no idea they just broke the CEO's dashboard.
So mapping upstream and downstream is really about change management.
It's about knowing who you're going to break if you change something.
That leads perfectly into core element 4, the environment, and the idea of reproducibility. This gets at the classic developer excuse.
Well, it works on my machine.
The most dangerous phrase in tech.
It is. You solve this with reproducible environment documentation. You treat your infrastructure like code. The source mentions tools like GitHub for version control and Docker for containerization.
And Docker just packages the whole environment up, right?
Exactly. You're not just shipping the code, you're shipping a virtual version of the computer it runs on. You document the hardware, the software, all the dependencies. It's mathematically identical everywhere.
No more phantom bugs from different library versions.
That's the goal. And this ties into having a controlled vocabulary, which goes back to our data dictionary point.
Right.
It's just a standard glossary. If one team calls it client-tied and another calls it custrefno, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Okay, let's bring the people back in. Core element 5, the human element. It's easy to get lost in the tech, but people have to use this stuff.
And if the documentation is hostile, the project will fail. The source stresses user centricity. You need real-world examples in your doc.
So not just here's the function, but here's how you use this function to actually calculate monthly churn.
Context is everything, and this goes for collaboration too with access control.
So balancing security with getting work done.
Right. You don't want everyone to have admin access to the production database. You use tools like AWS IAM or Azure AD to define roles. An analyst can read data but not delete it. An engineer can deploy code. It keeps collaboration safe.
And the source ends this section on a really important note: ethics.
Yeah, data ethics and responsible use. It's great to see that in there. This isn't just a technical problem, it's a responsibility. Privacy, fairness, transparency, these are ongoing conversations, not a checklist.
So we've built this amazing documented fortress. But let's be skeptical one last time. What happens if a company hears all this and just says, it's too much work, we'll just wing it? What are the real pitfalls?
Oh, they're catastrophic. The text calls them cautions, but let's be real. Weak documentation leads to what we call tribal knowledge.
Meaning only one person knows how it all works.
And when they leave, the knowledge is gone. Then there's insecure data disposal. If you don't document how to properly delete data, you're leaving sensitive information on servers just waiting to be found.
That's a nightmare.
Outdated standards. If the docs don't match the tech, people stop trusting them. And then you have incomplete data lineage. If you find an error in a report but you can't trace it back to the source, you can't fix it, you're just flying blind.
And all of that leads to user frustration.
Ultimately, yes. People give up and go back to their own spreadsheets, and poof, you're right back in the data swamp.
So, bringing this all together, what's the big takeaway?
It's that structured data management isn't some janitorial housekeeping task. It is a strategic imperative. It's the foundation for everything else. Everyone wants to do the cool stuff, the AI, the machine learning.
But you can't do the cool stuff if the foundation is rotten.
You cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. You have to put the pilings in first. This documentation, these frameworks, these are the pilings.
Yeah, and that's exactly where a company like Ninopol comes in. We always talk about transforming raw data into a powerful engine for growth. That engine doesn't build itself.
Not at all. It requires the strategy, the governance, and the implementation we've been talking about. Ninopol is often the architect that comes in to build that solid foundation.
So here's the challenge for you listening right now. Think about your own organization. The last time you tried to find the definition of a key metric or the source of a data set, was it easy? Or did it feel like an archaeological dig?
If it felt like archaeology, you've got some work to do.
I'll let you leave everyone with one final thought.
If your data could talk, would it tell a clear, consistent story about your business? Or would it just be noise? The difference between a story and noise is structure.
Powerful stuff. Thank you for diving deep with us today on episode 16. This has been Dataverse by Ninopol. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.
Keep that data structured.